end of the spear, and that book, this book, great book, available for you. In the epilogue, there is a terrific story about the foreigners in the trees. Would you tell us that story, Steve?
Well, the setup for it was that Olive Fleming, one of the youngest of the 5 widows, came back to the States almost immediately after Pete was killed with Ed and my dad. And Olive never went back to Ecuador, at least not down to the jungles, until finally she was remarried, and she and Walt Liefeld had 3 children. She went back, took one of her daughters, and Walt wanted to see where Pete had been killed. So my tribal grandmother Dawa and my Aunt Rachel and Kimo and Comey took her down to the beach that was still there then to show her where Pete had died. And Aunt Olive kept asking more and more questions, so Dawa understood she really wants to know the details. So she was describing what happened and what she saw because Dawa was there watching. And then she said, and right over there above those trees, that's where the other foreigners were. And Olive said there were no other foreigners. Aunt Rachel was translating, and Dawa said, oh, yes, there were. I saw them. They were right over there, right above the trees. And so Olive said to her husband, who teaches theology, he said, what could that have been? He said, I don't know. It sounds like angels to me. So Aunt Olive asked me if I would verify that. And so I asked all the others that had been there, and they all said yes, that they saw them and they heard chanting. Well, that's the only music that they have, so they called it chanting. And well, if you want to know more, read the book.
Right. It is a great story. It tells about Stephen Curtis Chapman coming down and them hearing a cut from some background music, and several of the tribe members who were there responding to it and saying, that's what we heard. And it is a powerful story, and one that brought a lot of solace and encouragement to you, because you kind of wondered about your dad.
The most painful part of this whole story that has stayed with me was thinking that my dad and Steve's dad and the other men, you know, they were sure. In fact, Steve's mom said when I was interviewing her for the documentary that some of you have no doubt seen.
How many of you have seen the documentary?
Yeah, that's really good too. I was interviewing her, and she kept saying, we were so sure of God's leading and protection. And, you know, I'd ask another question. She'd say, we were just so sure of God's leading and protection. I finally thought, Aunt Mary Lou, you were setting yourself up. Finally, I said, Aunt Mary Lou, when they gave you Uncle Ed's shoe and his watch and said he's dead, then what did you think? And she looked right at me and she said, I was still sure of his leading and protection.
Yeah.